Watch Governor Little signs the bill expanding Medicaid coverage. Now, this bill expands Medicaid to people earning 100 to 138% of the federal poverty level. In a letter, Governor Little says, "I strongly support the goal to incentivize unemployed and underemployed individuals to engage in work and training opportunities to build financial stability. We must encourage self-sufficiency among those receiving public assistance. However, I have concerns regarding the work and training reporting requirements in this bill. Similar requirements have resulted in costly lawsuits and were recently struck down in federal courts." Well, work requirements in this bill have been debated heavily by local lawmakers. CBS 2's Scott Logan is live. He's at the State House with reaction to today's development.
It was around 11 o'clock this morning when word started to spread throughout the State House that an announcement from the governor's office was imminent about Medicaid expansion. Rebecca Schroeder, executive director of Reclaim Idaho, the group that spearheaded Medicaid expansion, says the 61% of voters who supported Proposition 2 last fall did not want work requirements.
We are obviously disappointed that the governor signed this legislation today. You know, we saw this bill heavily amended just over the last 48 hours, and this is really a far cry from what the voters of Idaho approved at the polls in November.
But lawmakers, especially in the House, supported work requirements even after a federal judge struck down similar sideboards in 2 other states. And Representative John Vanderwoude, one of the bill's original sponsors, says a federal waiver from CMS, the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, is still required.
I'm glad it's done. I'm glad we now have a path forward. You know, the work requirements and everything that's in this bill are what we have to apply to CMS to see if they get approved. So they're not necessarily law yet. We still have to go through CMS, get their approval on what we want as far as work requirements.
The compromise bill that emerged from the House and Senate would kick people off Medicaid for failing to meet work requirements. And Senate Minority Leader Michelle Stennett says the legislature has proven itself tone deaf when listening to the voice of the people.
The legislature displayed this persistence in not hearing the will of the people for 6 years, and then the people said, "You are going to do it this way. This is what we want you to do." And then this year all we've seen is we're going to hammer the initiative process. We're going to put sideboards to the Medicaid expansion. We will not listen to what our people are telling us.
I think we've listened to the people. Yeah, 40% of the people voted against it. Who's listening to those 40%? You know, and so, yeah, 60% of it voted for it, but there still has to be, you know, in every legislation, there's almost always some type of compromise.
And before it adjourned for the day, the House did pass the Medicaid budget, which had been on hold in the chamber for many a week. The question now is, will they be able, the legislature, will they be able to sine die or end the session by the end of this week? They're working toward that. We'll just have to see what happens. Live at the State House, Scott Logan, CBS 2 News.